And here we are. All right, so right now we're going to make this iron band. Now this was made out of one piece of iron here. You can see it. They made the head here. This is where the one bar was joined. They wrapped it around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that band now. I'm going to go into orthographic mode, zoom in. I'm going to go to our textured mode here, add a Bezier circle. I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees, just like we did. And now I'm just going to make it this. You know, let's scale this down and put it here so you can see how close we're getting here. This allows us to see where this band is. So let's scale it down. That's pretty good. I'm going to get it into basic shape before I subdivide it. So as Z gets those two together, I can now scale them. If I change to individual origins now and I scale up, it will make those control points longer. So it actually squares those quite nicely. I'm going to move this on the x-axis because that's where that is, and I'm going to scale that up as well. And so now our iron bar is really where it should be on the bottom of this object. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now on this end, this is where I run into real trouble. So I'm going to select these three vertices, and I'm going to hit subdivide. And I'm going to have to subdivide again, but I'll show you what I'm working on in a second. So this is going to be the head of our circle where it's joined. So I'm going to move that on the x-axis, GX. And now I'm going to subdivide these guys too. All right. So now I have enough geometry to make this object. So I'm going to move this one here. I'm going to rotate it like this. I'm going to do this. And that's about right. This goes here. And you'll see how this works in a second. I'm going to move this guy here. Now I'm going to scale this down, and I could scale this up to do this, and I'm really close here, but you can see it's not the right shape. So I'm going to scale it down, and I'm going to subdivide one more time. So right click, subdivide, and now I can move these where I want them to be, and I'm really created exactly this shape, right? So I think that's about the shape I want for this iron band, right? Looks just like the original. So I'm going to go again over to my curve data information, and I'm going to scroll down past my offset information. I'm going to go to round bevel, and I'm going to increase the bevel depth here. So now, because I have my reference here, I can actually see how thick this is. And it's really close. Now, I could try to change it so it was exactly the same, but you know, maybe this one, I'm going to move this slightly here. But as I mentioned before, this is a handmade object. Now, one thing I do know is that it has extra width here because that's where the bar was bent around this thing, or the blacksmith shaped it into this head. And so I'm going to go into my radius here, and I'm going to slightly bulge it. Okay, great. So now I have what I think is, let's look at it from the top and see about the width. I'm going to scale this down now because we're really getting to the point where it's solid. We're really close. So is this about the same width as that? I think it is. You can see it's twisted on, I didn't photograph it from exactly the top, and it's loose because it's probably been dropped a few 100,000 times. I'm going to make this slightly larger in its radius. Oh, and I bet it was a 1/2 inch bar. Look at that. So, see? So this is 0.5 inches in diameter. That must be what it is. So let's go here, and I know that I want to make another one of these, right? I'm going to make this. Knowing what this shape is, you can see here, if I go into the top mode, I have the hook. It gets fat in here, and then it thins out again here. So this is a 1/2 inch, I bet, around here, and this is tapped out at the end, and this is 1/2 inch joined and hammered tight, so it's been annealed. I think that's the word, annealed. But let's see. How would I make that? So I'm going to add something. I'm going to add a curve here. I'm going to add a Bezier curve. If you've never worked with Bezier curves, they're pretty great. And this already looks a little bit like a hook, right? One could argue. I'm going to rotate it here. I'm going to shrink it. And look at that. It's very similar. I'm going to extrude this. And look at that. Wow. Hey, that looks a lot like my hook. Now, this is at an angle, so we're going to have to fix that. This is probably more like this and this. So we now have that, but we know from our picture here, we go into our 1 view or our 7 view. Let's see. Oh, well, you still can't. Here's this hoop. So these two come together to join this, and then this is 90 degrees. This point's 90 degrees away from the face created by this. Let's make this easier for us because I now feel that I'm all rotated around. So I'm going to rotate this on the Z axis right here. So this is the way it would be. And now it's turned on here so that you can't see it. So I know that this hoop and this hoop meet here. So this should be RX90. And I'm going to do RX180 to flip it so the hook is sticking up. Now, when I'm looking down from above, I tab in, and I want to make a circle that joins back here. So I'm going to go E, rotate, E, rotate. I'm going to leave this on the side here. E, and then E. So now we have the basic shape of the hook. Now that was pretty easy. I'm not going to show it to you again, but let's go to 7. Let's make this round. So it's like this, and this is like this here, and this is really in the center of these two, and I'm going to rotate it so it's exact. Then this guy comes in here, and this one is here, and that's okay. And then I'm going to turn this way, and actually the hook turns more like this, and it comes down. So maybe I'm going to subdivide these two. And now I can move this here. Right. See, so I'm out of orthographic mode here. Don't want to do that. R, and I'm going to pull it here. Then this goes here like this. This is much closer, as you can see. So I don't need it to be exactly that, but you'll see very soon. You can see it gets fat and then it gets narrower, but it doesn't get narrower to a point. So I'm going to subdivide these, and you'll see the method, the reason I'm doing this in a second. Okay, and this is here. That's actually, no, I want these to be 0 rotation on this axis. So I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to rotate this, I'm going to rotate this, I'm going to rotate this. I think those rotations were already existed. Okay. So that is basically the shape I want. I'm going to now come in here, do my radius. So one thing I can tell you is that I made this circle too big. So I'm going to take the entire object and scale it down, move it on the x-axis, And then I'm going to make this shape larger. Now I think that's about right. I'm going to increase my taper now, or my bevel here to that. That looks a lot better. Let's scale this up a little bit. Okay, now that looks a lot like what I have in mind, except here, this doesn't look right. So why doesn't it look right? Well, we know it gets smaller. So I'm going to bring it down to about here, and I'm going to rotate this slightly more, and I'm going to decrease that radius ever so slightly. I'm going to, now by the way, when you do one of these bevels, this is hollow. We're looking inside it. You can click fill caps. That will fill it. Now, this hook is much bigger on these radii, or on these points. So I'm expanding it there. This comes together just like it does in the original. This might be a little funkadelic. Let's go to 7 and see. And I think it's, let's see, which one is this? Okay, that's this one. Let's rotate this dude slightly, bring it in slightly here. But we do have that thickening of the neck there, and then it does get thicker here. So I think that this is pretty close to what this object looked like when it was made. So I'm going to move it on the x-axis here so it touches there. And now basically the only thing I haven't fixed is this. I'm going to scale that on the Z object, Z aspect. I'm going to give it that wood texture, which, by the way, always name your textures. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's the law. So I've left that there, and now all I need to do is make an iron material for these dudes to create this. All right, and that'll be the final video. It's just finishing the textures, and then we'll do a little render.